The craving for more JCS, the year after What Pretending to Look Crazy looks like, and the 2 years after Sarah literally thinks she's going home later, hit me hard. For most of us it did. Either we caved, searching JCS re-uploaded, or JCS deleted, trying to find playlists with secret videos we've never seen before, or we're brave enough to post them ourselves to keep them up forever, even though finding one would turn into a game of, no, not forever, and getting deleted on us. But then you just get to re-upload it again.
It's a never-ending cycle where you always end up feeling good about yourself.
So when he made a post that I can only find in my memory, that JCS would be going back to re-edit older videos and re-releasing them, and then son spends $275,000 of dad's money came out as a brand new interrogation, it wasn't new to me. I found it before he did, after he released it the first time, but before he released it the second time. And it was a real rocky road when the re-edited Son Takes Money from Dad episode included new lines after it took a toll on JCS that the original edit was deleted on him, where then he must have said, "Fuck you, I'm going back in to say more bad words, and it's gonna stay up this time."
He seems to get confused about what he's trying to achieve here. He carries a sympathetic tone while essentially roasting the ever-loving shit out of the suspect.
I didn't know JCS could sound so terrifying. He's not supposed to be the murderer here. Maybe the exception of being one of the most fascinatingly aggravating interrogations to ever be released took a toll on him too. But when the surprise lower tone takes over, it's so jarring and menacing to listen to, but it makes his demeanor as intriguingly unpredictable as the interrogation.
Here, you sit in my seat for a minute. Sit in my seat. Get out of it. Here, sit right here. Come here. Sit right here. Get out of that seat. Sit right there for me.
The suspect still isn't sitting in his seat.
Just like the real forgotten Ryan lore, 14 Cases of Ryan the Remake Lost Media, where it begins with February Ryan getting interrupted by March Ryan entering, only to tell you that what I was rambling about earlier isn't real anymore. And now the king of true crime returns with Bad Actor / Husband. I took my anxiety that it would get deleted, and I put it on the ground, right next to where my mind was, after being exposed to the fever dream opening that was the Newlyweds Tell on Each Other episode.
Behold.
I'm pretty sure I got enough sleep the night before and wasn't hallucinating low polygons, but it's almost like the editing was on a difficulty level too advanced for me to even perceive it.
And absolutely loved it.
I was honestly on board because it's so in JCS nature to be giving backstory and then out of nowhere drop some complete bombshell of a line that has the same effect as an auditory jump scare. But here the visuals are trying to scare you too, so a regular jump scare.
They moved to Florida, bought a house, and absolutely loved it. Except the only issue was that it didn't have a nice enough kitchen, so they decided to commit first-degree fraud.
They made the switch from being in love to committing fraud scary. I never thought fraud could sound so terrifying. It's not supposed to be the main crime here. And JCS has done it before with classics like...
She now apologizes to the dog, through the detective, who's conducting her interrogation for first-degree murder.
And...
In reality, no food was coming.
Either he's giving us the terrifying reality or recontextualizing an interrogation so masterfully.
You'll also notice the female detective interject with something useful every now and then. But unfortunately, she's not the one leading this interrogation. That would be the detective who keeps bringing up Jesus, to a guy who just murdered his family to go jerk off in a parking lot to a Bulgarian cam model.
Except the reality that these newlyweds get a new kitchen. That never happens. What happens is Amelia gets here and asks the void calmly why is she here, and, if I may use her own words against her, I think she's getting arrested for something, or is why she's here. Because to Amelia, normally when this starts, it's like someone getting in trouble or arrested or something. Which means Amelia knows that, for Amelia, it's going to end with someone getting in trouble or arrested or something.
Make sense?
Yeah.
All right.
She knows that in previous JCS videos, if you softly accept the situation without pushing back, it looks bad. Unfortunately, she only softly pushes back, because maybe she thinks if she looks upset, that means they'll know she's guilty. Even though, if you're feeling falsely accused of murdering someone, or being an accessory to that murder, I think would be upsetting to more than the average person. But it's okay, it's only basic information time for now.
He asks Amelia what she does for work. She clarifies that she works at Chase as a bank teller.
Which is when we learn that she chose to work for Chase as a bank teller, so she could secretly chase that $25,000 twice.
Amelia, I can tell you the reason why we're here today is because of that issue with the bank.
Okay.
Okay?
Not really. But it is the start of a breakthrough when they get her to go into details about her bank issue with
Gerald?
Okay.
Mr. Gerald.
Gerald, Mr. Gerald, as Amelia refers to him as, after she's been told that the bank issue is why she's here, and doesn't try to clarify the connection between the two and why she's here, but instead chooses to use spooky bank terms to scare us away.
I think I should call them, have the record over global security.
Mm-hmm.
So when they came in, they pulled like call logs, they pulled like cameras, just to make sure like they pulled signature files.
Amelia tries to use imprecise workplace terminology to confuse the detectives.
I may be confused about that level of vagueness, but I'm not scared. I'm just mad, because I'm confused. They get back to Gerald and any issues Amelia might have had with him, specifically about remembering things, and then right after, back into the issue of Mr. Gerald and the $55,000 missing from his account. That was handled by Amelia. But I think, as a professional bank teller, she clears it up pretty much dead on.
What did he ask for?
I think it's just we put 2 checks and $25,000 each,
Mm-hmm.
and that was it.
She doesn't clarify where the money was sent, and seems to think that being ambiguous enough will prompt the detectives to move past it, which is obviously ridiculous.
I may have been confused earlier, and mad about it, but I know what ridiculous is. And now I'm even more mad. Even to Mr. Gerald here, someone who's had brain surgery, vaguely transferring $25,000 into nothingness, would figure out that that's ridiculous.
We've talked to Gerald. All right? Gerald can't barely tell you what day it is.
Even if the detective tells Amelia Gerald doesn't know what day it is, he would tell you what day it was before ever asking you to transfer $25,000 twice, but then it going into nothingness. Ridiculous. And as soon as the detective tells her how ridiculous it is, and she's being, Amelia confesses. The first time she does, it's redacted, so we only get a couple seconds of whatever she was going on about, and then being shut down.
But it's not like I don't want to make it. Okay.
Mm-mm. No.
And the second time she confesses, it's definitely for real this time, and we get to see it.
I don't know the severity of what he did.
And there we have it. What appeared to be the brink of a very compelling confession wasn't. Amelia remains obtuse while subtly trying to bargain for some type of clemency.
The lies just get deeper and deeper. I was honestly on the brink of believing she was on the brink of a very compelling confession. But then her choosing to remain obtuse made me choose to be obtuse, since I just built all that up to nothing. We did get to see it, but what we saw was not her confessing.
No, of course, yeah. I don't, whoa.
Even after they tell her that this is how you get in trouble for murder.
If we find out in any stretch of the imagination, in any way, shape, or form, that you're providing some type of alibi
What is that?
to Josh, that you're telling us he was somewhere where he wasn't, that you're lying to us about where he was, what you know, what you don't know, about the gun, about any of it. If we find that out, guess what you become?
I don't know.
You become a principal. Principal to homicide in the 1st degree.
After all that,
My biggest thing right now is I need to know that I'm going home.
she looks sad, laughs, and then tells us the biggest thing to her right now is going home.
We need to be able to go to them and say she's completely 100% honest and truthful with us. We didn't have to give her a polygraph. We didn't have to do any of that stuff because she told us everything, okay?
And then if I do tell you everything, how am I promised I'm not going to go to jail?
Again, we can't make you promises, but what we can say is...
The investigator is clutching at straws trying to navigate this element, literally.
This is like when Knock Loose was screaming "Take me home" right at me for the first time. And I don't know how to respond. He thought he could run, but he's not as strong as he thought he was. I don't know how to tell him no matter where he goes, the dark finds out. I love whenever JCS finds tiny amounts of behavior that most of us wouldn't notice, so we can have a fun time.
He will now provide a very generic compromise which Amelia will immediately see through, and in exactly 2 seconds, she will shake her head, as if to say,
no deal.
What we can absolutely say is she was 100% truthful with us. She was remorseful.
So to Amelia, the idea that what we can absolutely say is she was 100% truthful and that she was remorseful gets a dismissive headshake from Amelia. And to Amelia, unless it's the deal of acting like she's cooperating, Amelia's not cooperating and it's no deal. Which JCS lays out as her pattern, which goes as follows.
Yes, I'm scared.
Okay. Well, you know what? That's something we're going to have to work through, okay? But we can work through that stuff.
Amelia takes the advice and tries to work on her issues.
But then it's followed by,
I told her if she wants to come, she can come and see me on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't heard from her since.
she's still given the detectives absolutely nothing they can use.
But then Amelia starts giving away more information.
He was nervous when he got home.
Okay.
He was really nervous.
And that's the extent of what she says.
But it turns out to be nothing.
Sorry, am I done or?
Well,
So she's punished for making the detectives sit and wait for her to not give them a full confession and then asking to go home by making her sit and wait and continue doing nothing, and especially not go home. Meanwhile, we get forced through a wall with the power of JCS into another room, reassuring us that this is not the last of Amelia, but the start of Josh,
who unbeknownst to her had been waiting in the room directly adjacent for just over 2 hours.
And I don't think we've gotten anything like this in any other JCS video, where it's 2 of them, so 2 interrogations. But at the same time, is how Bojack feels about Gina the same way I feel about Amelia? Because, do you really think I need to go back to her? Or do we leave things open enough where we can just kind of ghost?
oh, thanks. Hey, how you doing?
And if you think it goes any better for Josh, when the detectives enter and Josh tells them that he's cold, they reassure him that this supposedly lukewarm water will warm him up.
Well, that water's a little warm, so that might warm you up a little bit.
Yeah, it's cold.
And then they just proceed. The detective is exhausted and probably can't take another Amelia, or anyone who would be very fond of her, or marry her. But come on, detective, keep your threats subtle at least.
Has anyone threatened you or promised you anything to get you to talk to me?
No.
Okay. Okay.
Well, that was a threat within itself, from me, your friend, so good luck. The detective asks Josh the last bank account he opened, as his opening question, which is when JCS gives us the context of where the disappearing $25,000 twice went. Not in obtuse nothingness land, but hiding in Amelia's account for her 7-year-old child. I know, they'll never find it there. But the detective doesn't give up, even with those odds, and begins the good mythical morning Let's Talk About That spin-off show.
In whose name?
In my name and Julian's name.
Okay. Tell me about that.
Tell me about that. Guest star Josh tells the detective about the firearm he bought last week, Monday.
But also feels the need to immediately clarify how there is no possible way for that gun to have been involved in any shady activity since its purchase. So Josh's explanation is that he drove halfway up a bridge while he was in Daytona and threw it off.
Pretty sure I've heard this one before, but in case I haven't, you threw it off the overpass.
Yeah.
But wait until you hear why.
Explain to me your reasoning again as to why you threw this gun off this pier.
I had a real, I guess a relapse of what happened to me.
What Josh meant to say here is that he had a flashback.
Riddle is not the second word choice for flashback. The riddle is him not telling the truth and dancing around it on his little bridge like the grumpy old chore from Dora.
And what he's talking about is the fact that he accidentally shot himself in the leg with his own gun while getting out of the car to go bowling.
And relapse is definitely not the third word choice you want for flashback when you're thinking of a flashback of a time you had a gun and shit went down. Because if it's a relapse, next time it might not be your own foot you shoot before you go bowling. That fact is canon for Josh's timeline, by the way. Next time, it might be a person or two because you don't want them to do anything about your wife stealing $25,000 from them twice.
Yeah.
But then the detective gives him a chance to get rid of his murder charge with the alternative question, which, if you know your JCS lore, means
a morally acceptable explanation as to why he would be there.
And if you're this guy, it especially means
this is the face of someone falling for the oldest trick in the book, on the very first attempt.
And if you're this upcoming rant, it means you're going to be met with dismissive headshakes from more than just Amelia. But we must proceed.
All that's happened here is the detective was applying an effective variation of pressure, and the suspect crumbled like a deck chair, well and truly folded like an overcooked noodle.
That really does sound like something JCS would say. If an obsessive, edgy fanboy kid broke into his house, sat beside him with a gun to his head, and made him type it. It's on par with the totally believable story Josh makes up here.
And he was like, he had a gun to my head, and he said, he's like, I know you have a gun, give me your gun and leave.
Why did you put a gun in your head and take your gun?
I don't know. All I know is Amelia paid them $10,000.
To put a gun to your head and take your gun?
Unlucky Josh. Wrong answer.
What makes more sense is, well, I mean, you threw a gun because you used it.
No.
Yes. Josh.
Maybe this interrogation was another one of those exceptions that took a toll on him, where JCS had nothing to edit but these buffoons' lies for months, and it deprived enough sleep from him to finally shatter his psyche.
We now have to go back an hour and 40 minutes to begin Amelia's Phase 2, where Phase 1 left off.
Shat's so hard now he thinks he can time travel. Have we ever time traveled in a JCS video before? Because I don't remember. If not, then the timeline's about to get crazy. Remember that lukewarm water Josh was given to warm up? Well, I remember. It ended up having no effect for over an hour, and Josh is still cold. So right before the detectives leave Josh's cold room, he asks for a blanket.
Can they have
30
a
hours.
blanket or something?
Yeah, well, I think my one partner tried to find you one.
It's cold.
But just then, JCS takes us back an hour and 40 minutes to Amelia's room, which is also cold.
I'm cold and I just want to talk to them.
I'm getting to it, guys.
Okay, I will look for a blanket for you, and then I can't help you to talk until they're done, but I'll, let me go get you a blanket, okay?
Okay.
And the insane part is that the detective re-enters Amelia's room with 2 blankets.
There's 2 of them, I know you're cold.
Okay.
One for Amelia, one for Josh. The blanket he needed almost made it to him, but missed his room by 1 room. Unlucky Josh. Wrong timeline.
God, this is insane.
I would agree with you. Yeah.
And the officer that gave her the blanket, after appearing out of nowhere, was also the one that made her arrest, and he goes in for the kill.
He went over there.
And then less impressively, we travel 14 minutes into the future to what will be the last 14 minutes of Josh also, who is seen here trying to sleep away his murder charge for his second attempt, with his new blanket that will be the last thing to ever hold him like that.
Better?
Putting everything else aside, just imagine being Josh right now. One moment you're in dreamland, and the next you're jolted back into interrogation room reality.
I guess instead of that obsessive, edgy fanboy kid that broke into his house from earlier and made him type those ridiculous words, it's his mom reading the script now? I don't think anyone could have ever expected it. But conceptually, I think it's very bold. Working with AI might have been the worst way to put it together. But also, it means someone else was secretly listening in all along. You don't know how many of us are in here. Either way, it's gotten a little uncomfortable in here. But having seemingly one narrator the entire runtime, and then purposefully include a surprise person at the end that could come strapped with a completely new strategy, or just come in for the kill at the end, like that officer with the blanket, might have more of an effect. Otherwise, it'll probably fall apart. But how do I know if what I've made so far hasn't already fallen apart?
Did you ever tell your wife that you killed these 2 people, and if she said anything, you would kill her?
No.
And her whole family?
No. Never. Never would have said that.
Well, Josh, my friend, you got the right words down, but the emotion is not something I'm getting a read on. Did you kill her? No. And her whole family? No. Never would do that. No.
Josh looks pretty sad that his last piece of admission didn't have any effect. In about 30 seconds, he's going to try again, but up the intensity.
All right. Every time I keep pointing out something to you that just doesn't make sense, it keeps, you keep flipping it. You keep changing it, okay?
Not sure how well the breaking his nuts under his blanket, getting ready to act emotional strategy will add to his defense, but we'll see where it goes.
We've been together for 7 years, and I've done the world and back with this girl regarding her son, herself, with her baby daddy problems, and...
She says you're abusive. Mentally and physically.
And that's not me. I mean, that blows my mind.
Yeah.
That blows my mind.
Both of what you have said today blows my mind.
What Amelia said about him blows Josh's mind. What Amelia and Josh said at all blows the second detective's mind. Everyone's getting blown here.
There's something poetic about a husband and wife spending their last several hours of freedom sitting just inches apart from each other, yet completely separated by a wall, betrayal, and
I think what's even more poetic is that Ryan lost the plot, separated by a wall of his own making, in writing, creating an alternate timeline where you might not have realized he forgets to review the newest JCS video. Husband tries to act his way out of a murder charge.
And now the king of true crime returns with bad actor/husband.
Unlucky Ryan. Wrong timeline. With nothing to write about but these buffoons' lies for weeks, deprived enough sleep from him, finally shattering his psyche. Shat so hard he wished it could make him time travel, but it's too late now. And once he realizes it, he'll probably delete this.